welcome to SBS 304 Research Methods. Today I'm going to talk you through your annotated bibliography assignment. So first, let's look at the assignment, which you can find posted under Writing Assignments on the Moodle page. So the purpose of this assignment is to prepare you to write your literature review by discovering the academic research related to your topic. In order to complete this assignment, you will summarize at least 10 academic sources related to your research topic. For this assignment, it's not necessary to kind of synthesize or organize the sources or to write an overarching analysis. I just expect you to write 10 summaries. They don't have to go together, they don't have to be woven together into an essay like you would for a literature review. I just want you to summarize the sources. This is like an information gathering assignment. So the big thing I want to talk about today is identifying appropriate sources. This is the biggest problem that students have in creating a literature review and especially in creating an annotated bibliography. So to help you identify sources that are appropriate, I've listed some ideas that are some types of sources that are almost always appropriate. These include peer-reviewed journal articles, which are articles published in an academic research journal with a peer review process. A peer review process is a process through which editors of journals assign an article to a panel of experts, and then that panel of experts vets the research and votes on whether it should be included in the journal. It's a fairly rigorous process that helps us get a hold of good science and excludes kind of sloppy science or science that doesn't make a contribution. So there are problems with the peer review process. For example, people might choose to include research that supports their own research. But in general, it's a way of ensuring that scientific writing is at least scientific. Another type of research you can include are chapters in an edited volume. So if you ever find a book that's like a handbook or a compendium or some other kind of volume on a subject, you can usually tell what these works are because they're usually edited by one or two editors, and each chapter is generally written by a different author. So you'll see kind of a collection of experts on the field, each writing an article, each writing a chapter, that's then kind of woven together and framed, usually with an introduction and a conclusion by one or more editors. So these are generally carefully vetted works that are that are solicited by experts and then verified by those experts. Finally, academic monographs. These are what you think of as like a book on research. This is a book which presents a single body of research written by one or two authors. And you can tell that it's academic because it's usually published by a university press. But there are other ways you can tell. For example, research is always going to be the thrust of the narrative. So the thrust of the narrative will usually be, here's what the research shows on this subject. Here's why this research is important. You won't find a lot of entertainment value in these books, although they can be very interesting. They're not written to be punchy and kind of fun. They're usually fairly matter of fact. And if you ask yourself who's the intended audience, it's generally academics. It's generally researchers in the field. So you're unlikely to find these books on the New York Times bestseller list. You're more likely to find them in a catalog presented by a university press. Finally, I've included some types of resources that are almost always inappropriate. These are sources that students frequently include that I really don't want to see in this assignment, not because they never have any value. There are ways you can use sources like this, but they're not considered appropriate academic research. And this includes popular or journalistic writing. So books and articles written for a general audience, which may present some research, but are mostly intended to be entertaining. So a New York Times article or a New Yorker article or a US News and World's Report article would not be appropriate. Neither would like a popular culture kind of Malcolm Gladwell style book. There's nothing wrong with these books. They're fine information, but they don't go through an academic process that we consider kind of part of research writing. Government reports and websites. So these are fine places to get information that you can use in your research. It's fine to learn from these reports and agencies, but we don't consider them academic. Please don't include them in your annotated bibliography. Editorial writing, anything that's mostly opinion-based. So this would be an article, an essay, an op-ed, anything that appears in a newspaper, magazine, blog post, popular news website that's editorial, that mostly presents one person's experience or opinion. It's generally not considered research writing. And finally, other popular media like television shows, movies, comic books, blog posts, magazine articles, etc. So how are you going to summarize these articles? How you summarize them is largely up to you, but I mostly want you to focus on what are the main findings of the research, what are the methods the authors use to conduct the research, and what questions did the author leave unanswered. So you're generally going to find the main findings of the research in the bottom, the last section, the discussion section. There the authors will summarize kind of what we found and what we learned. You're going to learn about the methods in the methodology section. And you're going to learn about what questions the authors left unanswered in that last section again. The discussion section, most authors will include a few sentences about limitations. They'll basically say, even though this research is very important and we did a lot, we didn't learn about this question, or we weren't able to answer this kind of question. So what questions did the authors leave unanswered? What are the gaps in the knowledge that these authors created? And how does this research relate to your research topic? So I want every article or book or chapter that you choose to be related to your research topic. It can be related kind of loosely, but I need you to have an idea of why it's important for your research. Otherwise, there's no point in including it. I expect summaries to be about half a page long, but if you're summarizing an entire book or a chapter from an edited volume, you may wish to write more for longer sources. So the point of this assignment is that it should be useful to you in writing your literature review later. Think of this as an opportunity to expend a lot of effort up front to save you a lot of headache later. So the more work you do now, the easier it will be in early November when you're producing the literature review. Lastly, I want you to cite each source using a standard citation format. I want you to basically introduce each source using a reference list style reference, followed by the summary. So this should be in a standard citation style, but I understand that you're coming from different behavioral science disciplines, so it's okay to use a style that relates to your discipline. So if you're a sociology major, you might use ASA. If you're a political science major, you might use APA or Chicago. If you're a different social behavioral science major, you might use MLA. I don't really know, but as long as it's a standard reference format, I'm okay with it. My grading criteria are pretty loose. In order to earn full points, you should meet the following 4 criteria. You should summarize at least 10 sources, summarize each source for approximately half a page, double space, 12-point font. You should include a reference for each source in a standard citation style, and you should submit your paper on time. If you do all 4 of those things, you'll earn an A grade. There's some wiggle room between 90 and 100%, maybe you do a really great job, and maybe you only technically meet the criteria. So if you only technically meet the criteria, you'll probably get about a 90, a 93. If you do a really exceptional job and everything looks very complete, you'll make 100%. If you meet 3 of the criteria, you'll make C plus B grade. Again, there's some wiggle room depending on how well you do everything. And if you meet fewer than 3 of the criteria, you'll earn at least a 50 and up to a C. You won't earn a 0 as long as you turn everything in. If you turn everything in and meet at least 2 of these criteria, you should make at least a 50. So I hope that's an incentive to you to turn something in, even if you're feeling overwhelmed, even if you don't think you're doing a good job, even if you're anxious. Please turn something in. I can always help you turn something into something better, but I can't work with nothing. If you give me nothing, I cannot help you improve. So please give me something, and you'll earn at least a 50, even if what you turn in is really not very good at all. So please don't turn in nothing. Next, I want to talk to you about how to identify appropriate academic research and how to do library research. I know most of you are juniors, but some of you are sophomores, and you may need some assistance figuring out how to do academic research. So we're just going to briefly practice identifying some good research on a given topic. So this is the BSC library website. And all I've done is go to BSC, go to the menu, and click on library. And this is the library homepage where it takes me. And I'm going to show you how to do a database search because it's going to be more useful to you than a general catalog search. So I'm going to go to database search, and I'm going to go to databases by subject. And I'm going to go to social sciences. And now here's where we'll differ. If you're a political scientist, you might want to go to worldwide political science abstracts. If you are a global comparative studies major, you may want to do all kinds of things, general behavioral social sciences. But as a sociologist, this is where I'm going to look. I'm going to go to sociological abstracts. This is a ProQuest database, and it gives me this search field. The first thing I'm going to do is limit my results to peer-reviewed. This is only going to return peer-reviewed journal articles. So I'm going to type in, my research is generally on stress and mental health. So I'm going to type in stress and mental health and click enter. Okay, so here I have limit to peer-reviewed, source type scholarly journals, and I have the publication date of the articles. So maybe I really only want results since the 90s because that's what's going to be relevant to my field. So I can update that information. But I still have 22,000 search results. That's really too many to parse. I really don't need 22,000 search results. So I'm going to go back to the search by clicking on advanced search. And I'm going to say that I want stress and mental health to appear in the abstract of the article. The abstract of the article is the little blurb at the top of the article that basically digests the article for you. It's a master summary of the article. So I want stress and mental health to be key terms in the article, something the article is about. By limiting it that way, I've gotten down to just about 2,000 results. That's still really too many to work with, so I'm going to update the date again and only go with articles since 1990. That's still very many, but I think I can begin kind of parsing things here. So mental health of those, so here we have a lot of articles related to stress and mental health, including some that I recognize as being very good, very important articles. But maybe I'm looking for something more specific. Maybe I really want to know how the stress of natural disasters affects mental health. So what I can do is click Add Row. And this lets me add an additional search term. So here I'm going to type natural disasters. And I want this to be in the abstract also. So now I have only 19 results. Mental health of those directly exposed to the World Trade Center disaster, unmet mental health care need, mental health treatment service use, and quality of life. The impact of climate change and natural disasters on vulnerable populations, a review of the literature. Mental health and general wellness in the aftermath of Hurricane Ike. Here we have some duplicates. Impact of natural disasters on health outcomes and cancer among older adults. Predicting disaster response effectiveness. So here we have articles related to my specific research question. And I can always modify my search. Maybe instead of natural disaster, I just want to know about any disaster. So that gives me rather more results at 72. It includes non-natural disasters too, including some more natural disasters, but the World Trade Center disaster, other kinds of disasters. So this is generally how I would do library research. Now, let's modify my search. And now I'm going to uncheck the peer-reviewed box. That's because I want to include books and book chapters. And that is all. So here I have one book on women and post-disaster stress. I had intended to include scholarly journals, but by selecting books, I found one book on my subject. Women and post-disaster stress. So I'm going to select that, and notice that all the articles I've selected, all 6 of them, are in my research folder up here. So I have a research folder, and when I'm ready, I can email those sources to myself, and it will show up in my email. So this is a brief introduction to library research if that's not something you've done before. Also, if we go back to the library homepage, you can go to Research Guides, select all subjects. you can go to sociology or political science research guides. And Dr. May has created a research guide for you to help you find articles on political science. I know at least one student wants to do research on conspiracy theories, so this fake news research guide might be really interesting for you. So we have these research guides. We can also go back to the library homepage. Oh, that took us all the way to the college homepage. So let's go to the library. And you can ask a librarian. Chat is offline right now, but if you type a research question, or if you type a question, it will let a librarian know you need help. That's all I want to talk to you about regarding library research. So I want to just encourage you to take this part of the assignment very seriously. Really do your best on it. The reason being, it really will make your annotated bibliography, it really will make your literature review assignment much easier later. And it will get you started narrowing down your research question. So when we go into the more specific concrete labs, like designing a sampling frame or sampling strategy, designing a survey instrument, doing in-depth interviews, you'll know what questions have been answered in your field and what questions haven't been answered yet. And you'll have a better idea of where to go with your own research. So this assignment is a fact-finding mission. You're collecting information that you're going to use later, and it's going to make your research better. So I encourage you to really do your best with it. I also encourage you to make an appointment with Daisha May, who is the Political Science and Sociology Research Librarian. She will help you do specific research on your subject. If there's specific information you need that you're having trouble finding, she will help you. She's a superhero who will help you with any research you need help with. I also want to encourage you to ask me for help if you're having difficulty. I can help you figure out things like how to use interlibrary loan, how to access information through other library systems if necessary. So let me know how I can help, and I look forward to talking to y'all again on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.